Voters will get a chance to size up Mike Pence and Tim Kaine Tuesday night at their one and only vice presidential debate in Virginia. Both will be defending voting records that have sometimes clashed with positions taken by their running mates, the frontrunners. So, will there be any knockout punches? Ken Owen of DePauw University moderated a 2012 Indiana gubernatorial debate, saw Pence up close and in action. Michael Pope knows Tim Kaine's record better than most, having covered politics for years with Virginia Public Radio. Thank you both for joining me today. I know we can't expect 84 million voters, but I do want to start with you, Ken, because there are more people paying attention than perhaps in election cycles past, not only because of undecided voters, but also because of the high unfavorability ratings. So what can we expect on Tuesday?
Well, I think, Mike Pence is a talk show host at his core, and that's not a put down. I'm a former broadcaster myself, but he knows how to work a room. He knows how to get in and out of a segment. He knows how to wrap things up. He knows how to get to a point. I think he is a very disciplined and cautious communicator. I don't think there will be any home run moments, likely not. I don't think he's going to stick his foot in his mouth either. Vice presidential debates tend not to move the meter in elections. I think you're right. Monday night left a lot of people kind of scratching their heads on both sides, and there are a lot of undecided voters in this election, I believe. And so I think Mike Pence's job is to stand up and, number one, support Trump to the extent he can, but number two, position himself for 2020, because he's really going to have a national spotlight he's never had before. Okay,
and Michael, it sounds like we're hearing that he's going to be very prepared. Can we expect that from the other side? I mean, when we looked ahead of the presidential debate, we saw a lot of people, a lot of pundits lowering the bar. I mean, we saw statements from the RNC. We saw a number of factors. We haven't seen that at all so far.
Well, the bar is set kind of where it is for a vice presidential debate, which is it's not really going to be the main attraction. In terms of Kaine, if we look back to his long record in politics, we can learn some things about how he might act in the debate. One thing is a little bit counterintuitive, which is that I would expect him to actually agree with Pence every now and then. Kaine will find things in Pence's record that he can make agreement with. So I would strongly expect that. The other thing is perhaps not quite as counterintuitive, which is I would expect Kaine to return to Indiana's Religious Freedom Restoration Act over and over again, perhaps even changing the subject to bring it back around to that. This is a law that was passed in Indiana. Pence signed it in reaction to the Hobby Lobby decision that allows owners of like pizza shops or bakeries or flower shops to potentially discriminate against same-sex couples. This has come under a lot of criticism. So I would expect Kaine to sort of come around to that again and again as a point of disagreement.
Right. So you brought up a good point. There's a number of examples where, let's say, and this applies to both of these candidates, that they've shifted or softened. They both have shifted and softened on TPP, Mike Pence specifically on the Muslim ban, the Iraq War, like you said, Indiana's religious freedom laws. But the same can go for Tim Kaine. I mean, there's been some criticism that he has changed his opinion on taxpayer-funded abortion and also right to work. So I want to go to you, Ken. How do they debate? But then if they have changed topics on that, how do they respond to criticisms?
Well, I think Pence is in, and I think Michael's right. The RFRA, as we call it here in Indiana, will be a topic during the debate. And I think the Stephanopoulos moment, if you will, where he was on national television and was asked, paraphrasing the question, do you support the civil rights of all Americans? And he hedged. That's I think, going to be an issue. He can't have one of those moments on the national stage. He has to be decisive and answer questions. I think Michael's also right. It will be a civil argument. And I think that if Mike Pence is going to have a good night on Tuesday, he's going to emerge as somebody who talks a lot about his record in terms of economic development, job creation, lower taxes, and he's able to kind of shuffle these other things aside. But I think they will be issues.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're not necessarily thinking that we're going to see fireworks. Do you agree with that?
Do I agree with that?
Are you asking me?
Yes, so I would agree with that.
The reason I ask that is because these candidates seemed like they were pretty predictable picks to begin with, not necessarily people who were going to shake the vote. So is that something that we're going to see on next week?
Well, I think what we are going to see from Kaine is that he will make some attacks. He might wait to be attacked first and then respond But I wouldn't just hold out and wait. I wouldn't expect Kaine to just hold out and wait for an attack. He might go on the offense on his own. And here's also what I would expect from Kaine, is that he will know the Pence record cold. He'll know everything that Pence has done. He will have listened and or read the transcripts of his time in talk radio. He will go through and see if Pence has ever voted for a raise for himself as a public elected official. He will say, he will look at he will look at Pence's voting record when he was in Congress. Did he miss a lot of votes? So I would expect moments where Kaine knows the Pence record and uses that to go after him.
Right. Well, gentlemen, I wish we had more time. I guess the takeaway that is that we may see a little bit more fireworks than we think. So Ken and Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.